In this video, we're going to take a look at a purple ink by Private Reserve, one of their fast dries, Tanzanite. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the purple ink playlist, so if you want to see more purples, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Just looking because I'm saying, the extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo. The thing is, there's parts that look darker, but they got a funny look to them where I'm seeing a little bit of sheen like on the K in quick or the B in brown. Not so much shading, but some sheen coming through, 10 seconds to dry. The medium is lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation. We really don't get it where it looks a little bit darker like the K in quick, the Q in quick, the H in the. We're getting little bits of sheen there, which is nice. I don't see sheen a whole lot in writing. The smear test says you probably could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Kaweco Sport with a 1.5 stub was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, very minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is just a tad darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 19 seconds to dry. And I find that so weird to not get the sheen on this, but I had it on the Clairfontaine. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 34 seconds to dry. Wow. This was a fast dry ink, by the way. Yeah, this is a fast dry ink, just saying. The scrubby for both show no color variation. It looks like, according to the medium, there should be tiny bits of sheen, but it's not coming through. The smear test says you can't recover if you smear while you're writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And you see this really nice purple working its way up, and then you see some of the blue shining through at the top. Pretty nice. The one on the right that's allowed to dry for 10 minutes before it's put in the water, you see that some of that purple is gathering and staying at the bottom as if it wants to be permanent. I don't think it will be. The rest pushes its way up, and you see more of the blue here. It suggests there may be some permanence. I'm not really expecting it. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, halo, there is a couple sheen spots like the B in brown, the X in fox, and the P in jumps all show a tiny bit of sheen. Again, I didn't get to see it on a Tomoe River. 10 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine or stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation. We're not getting it. And the smear test, maybe, just maybe, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation. It's reactivating and moving, and you're going to lose important stuff. Now, some of that little bits of sheen that I see, you can see little spots of it in the smear, but it's funny because it has less sheen than some of the smears I've seen, but I actually see it a little easier in some of the writing. Water's lifting the blue, leaving the purple. Pen Flush is doing everything that water does and a little bit more. You see a little bit of the white of the paper coming through, and the 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it. The good news again, it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and this is a more absorbent paper, so that little bit of sheen isn't going to come through. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 9 seconds to dry, while the medium is darker than everything on the page, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 13 seconds to dry. I want to remind you, this is a fast-drying ink. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we don't get it, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Fast Dry Tanzanite has a viscosity of 2.2, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests or any of that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now, let's take a look at 28-pound copy paper. We do get spots that are coming through a little darker, not the kinds of things I think that would stop us from using the back of the page. Up here, perhaps, not down here with the extra fine. And I don't worry about the scrubby. It's a fast dry, so you tend to expect it to be a little bit more aggressive, so you have certain expectations. Like, in the medium, we do get feathering all over the word Tanzanite. It's tiny little feathering, it's the whole way through, but you kind of expect that because the fast dry usually means that it's bonding with the paper faster, so it's running in there. It's got no spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a tad bit lighter than the medium. This one has no feathering, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. So there, it's fast dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we didn't get it. In a smear test, you don't smear it, so it's going to do fine. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Fast Dry Tanzanite had an average dry time of 18 seconds, making it on a slightly higher side of normal. Remember, it's fast dry by name. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now right here is the most interesting part. This part touched the page underneath, leaving some dots. All the rest of it is just very deep into the paper, but that spot left spots underneath. There's no way to use the back of the paper, and it can corrupt the next page. The medium has a ton of tiny feathering all over it. It spreads to a little bit more than a broad. It has no halo sheen and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium. It does have tiny feathering. You look at the word quick, it's all over it. It's really tiny feathering. It's not the worst in the world. It does spread to about a medium. It has no halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. Scrubby shows no color variation because there is none, but the good news is you can't smear it, so you don't have to worry about that. Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Fast Dry Tanzanite, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a black ink by Waterman, their Intense Black, because this is a pretty decent tone. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to all those playlists. So what did I think of Private Reserve's Fast Dry Tanzanite? I didn't notice any dry time difference from this to the standard Tanzanite. It is much darker in the swatch, and I prefer the swatch tone over the writing tone. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? To get as close as you can to the tone you see swatched, I would recommend going with a very wet, a fire hose of a broad or stub nib. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Diamine's Tropical Green.